Hi everyone, my name's Stephanie Hutchin. I'm just doing this video just to introduce myself and what my channel is about. I have some notes here, so if you see me looking away, I'm just reading my notes. So to begin with, this channel is all about PKU and the maternal journey through that. When I first found out I was pregnant, I tried to do a lot of Google searches on what to expect during pregnancy when you have phenylketonuria. And I couldn't find much information about it at all, especially no videos. So I thought I would create this channel just to let everyone know my journey through maternal PKU and how that has affected me. This is my first pregnancy, so it was all very new to me, and I grew up for a long time thinking I'd struggle falling pregnant, let alone even thinking about having a baby because of my medical condition. But I just thought I would go with the flow, listen to my doctors, and do exactly what they told me to do when we started thinking about having a baby. So to begin with, just an overview of what PKU is. In my terms, I'm not a professional whatsoever, so don't quote me on this, but living with PKU, I feel like I know a fair bit about it now. So when your babies are first born, they get the heel prick with tests for metabolic disorder. So PKU is a metabolic disorder. Basically means that I was born with an enzyme in my liver, so I can't digest proteins. So my entire life I've been on a low protein diet, taking formula, which I'll be on for the rest of my life, which helps me digest the small amounts of protein that I am allowed to eat. So that's just the basic overview. So it is a metabolic disorder. When it comes to females wanting to start a family and they have PKU, their pregnancies are automatically as high risk due to the medical condition. So basically what can happen during pregnancy is if your levels are not in range, so when I say levels, I mean our phenylalanine levels. If they're not in range, it can become toxic to your developing baby. It tends to affect their brain mostly. So yeah, that's just a basic overview. If you want a more detailed information on that, you can always Google it. There's a lot of information online about it, but there's just not a lot of videos explaining personal journeys through maternal PKU. So in saying that, if you would like more information on that, please leave a comment below, and I will send you a personal message about the more in-depth definitions of maternal PKU and PKU in general. So I'm just looking at my notes here. So just a little overview of who I am and my personal journey. Me and my husband met when we were quite young. He was 15, I was 18. We got together, and on our 10-year anniversary, we got married in 2017. Since we got married, I've been on what we call preconception diet. So with women with PKU that want to start a family, everything has to be pre-planned. If for any reason you have an unexpected pregnancy, there is still a high chance you can have a quite healthy baby. So not to stress over that too much, but it is always best and recommended by medical practitioners in the metabolic department that everything is pre-planned. So in a pre-planned pregnancy, they recommend going on a preconception diet to get your levels in range. At least 12 months before starting to try is their recommended time, but that doesn't always work out for everyone. It certainly didn't work out for us. I was on and off preconception diet since we got married, which was about 2.5 years ago now. and we got my levels in range. I've always struggled my entire life with my levels. So the recommended before conception for your levels to be is under 360 of phenylalanine, which you get tested for that through a blood test. So during Precon diet, I started off doing fortnightly blood tests, then I went to weekly blood tests, and now throughout my pregnancy, I'm still on weekly blood tests. So everything is monitored per week. Getting back to the Precon diet, so with preconception diet, I had quite high levels. My levels have always been really high, anywhere between 1200 and 500. I think the lowest I've ever been was 500 before preconception diet. So I've struggled with that my entire life, and taking formulas. So our formulas, there's a whole different variety of formulas you can have. It's just about trying to find one that best suits you and one that you can stomach the easiest. They're not all the most nicest tasting formulas, but we have to take them. So it's just finding the best one that suits you at the time. So during preconception diet, I was on 3 grams of protein a day. I was taking Express 20s and Sphere, which are both from Vitaflow, which is like an online pharmacy that you get recommended to through dietitians. So with PKU, you pretty much for life will have a dietitian, metabolic doctor are the two main practitioners you'll have. I actually live in North Queensland in Australia, and all my doctors are based in Brisbane, which is South Queensland. So they're quite a fair far away from where I live. So all my things are through phone calls, emailing to my dietitian a lot if I have any questions. And then I see them in person once a year. They travel to North Queensland to see us. And we all go in there on the one day. Besides that, we also have telehealth conference online. So we get to do that at least once a year as well before being pregnant. Once you do fall pregnant, though, you'll have a lot more visits, like a lot more teleconference calls and stuff like that as well. But I'll go into that in more detail a bit later, maybe even in my first trimester recap. But for now, so during a Precon, they're the main things that you have to look at is you have to weigh everything you eat, which is also continued through onto pregnancy as well, which is a lot stricter during pregnancy. So for my personal story, my journey, in September 2018, I removed the bar from my arm because we were thinking about starting a family. I went really strict on Precon diet for about 6 months, and I was still struggling with my levels. I got even stricter in the new year, starting in January. I was still struggling a bit. I just couldn't get them down low enough. They did come down, but just not low enough. I think when I started Precon, they were at 1700. In January, I think I got them down to about the 600 mark, which is still very high. Like I said, for preconception, you have to get them under 360, and they recommend you hold it at that for 3 months before you start trying to conceive. For my journey, I struggled a lot, and in the just before Easter, they were thinking about putting me into hospital to help get my levels down quicker because they knew I wanted to start for a baby this year. I'm also 30 years old, so age-wise with maternal PKU can be a little bit more intense. For normal pregnancy, I think it's after 35. It becomes high risk as well. In a normal pregnancy with PKU, they don't defy that you have to have all your children before 30, but they do recommend the earlier the better. Obviously not recommending teen pregnancies, but hey, if it happens, it happens. There's always a way around it, especially with PKU. Just listen to your doctors, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. So some of the things I used during Precon was I tracked my periods from the day I took out my bar, and my arm, which was my, at the time, birth control. I started tracking my periods. Took about 2 months for my periods to get back to normal. And then after that, I would track everything. Then in January, I started tracking my ovulation. So how I did this was a bit confusing to me at first, but I did a bit of research on it. And I downloaded an app called Ovia. The Ovia app was really good. I just looked up the Google Play Store, and I downloaded it. On there, you can put in there the first day of your period, and then it will estimate when your next period will be due. And mine was pretty accurate. Might have been maybe a few days off here and there, but it was pretty accurate majority of the time. And that was one of the things that we found out, how I found out I was pregnant, is because I was late. But I'll go into more detail about that a bit later. So basically on the Ovia app, I was tracking my periods. And then I went online and I got, just on eBay, these little ovulation tests. So it's just like a pregnancy test. So you just pee on the stick, and if you get 2 lines that come up, you're ovulating. If you only get 1 line come up, then you're not ovulating. So I was pretty regular. I would ovulate about 11 to 12 days after getting my period, the first day of my period. And then I would ovulate, and then, yeah. So I was tracking that for a few months during pre-con, just so I could work out when it was time to start trying for a baby. I knew exactly when we should do the deed. So yeah, it worked really good for us. It may not work for everyone. I find trying not to stress over it too much always helps. Just when you think you might be ovulating, take the test, and yeah. So what else did I use? I also had to do, because I was on quite a strict diet during pre-con diet, I was on the simplified diet. So the simplified PKU diet is you get a list of foods from your dietitian that we class as free protein foods. So these may include things like some vegetables like beans, zucchinis, the little yellow round thing they're called squash. They're like zucchinis, but they're a little round thing. What else? We had eggplant. I had a lot of eggplant that was free. A lot of salad gear. So your basic garden salads like lettuce, tomato, cucumber, capsicum, olives, gherkins, stuff like that. So you'll get a whole list of free foods that you can eat. On pre-con diet, I pretty much lived on that. That's all I had. And then the 3 grams of protein I was allowed would be something like maybe a little bit of potato, whether it be mashed potato, boiled potato, or potato chips. And then I might have like a little bit of corn. So all that, you'd get like a list of things that had protein in them and how much you're allowed to have per 1 gram of protein. And that's basically how you worked out what you could eat each day. And because it is such a strict diet and you have to measure everything, weigh everything up, I found the best way to keep on track of it was to write a food diary. So I got this diary. I ordered this diary off of eBay. A lot of the stuff I got for my pregnancy journey has come off eBay. They're such a great source. So in the front page, it's got some details. So in there it says like your start date, your current weight, what your weight goal is, and then like it also has an exercise tracker in it. So if you're doing exercise, you can record what exercise. When I first got this diary, I was actually trying to lose weight. I wanted to lose weight before I had a baby. Took me 2 years to lose 20 kilos, which is a whole different story. When you're trying to lose weight with PKU, it can be a lot harder because you can't have the high protein and low carb diets that most people do to lose weight. With PKU, it's the opposite. So you got to have low protein and high carbs. If you don't have high carbs, especially when you're exercising a lot, you're not getting enough energy and stuff like that to be able to cope. So I found this diary really good. I've pretty much filled the whole diary out. But during Precon and in my first trimester, I would fill this out. It would have over here what protein I was eating, what food I was eating, and how much protein was in each one of those. It would also have how many formulas I had, how much water I was drinking a day, and for what exercise I did and how long I exercised for. Once, obviously, I found out I was pregnant, I kind of slowed down on the exercising and I didn't do much exercising after that. Yeah, so a food diary is very important, especially during preconception and definitely through your first trimester, which I'll go into that in more detail in another video. So